Hi everyone. In this video, we will look at LangChain agents. We will see what are those agents, how do they work. We will look at one specific example of the how do the agents work and how we can use them, and then we will focus on a specific agent called SQL database agent. This is the agent using which you can connect to a relational SQL database, and then you can query database using the natural language. That's what we are going to see in this particular video. So first of all, we're going to require, let's say, LangChain as a framework. We're going to require, OpenAI as a large language model, and we're going to use, let's say, MySQL database to connect with my database. So we're going to use the PyMySQL, and that's what. So we have those things available. Now let's look at what exactly the agents, so you can go and read more about, but let me tell you briefly what exactly the agents are. You can think of LangChain agents are like an intelligent programs or module which can use large language model like, let's say, ChatGPT or GPT-4 to decide what actions to take. For example, you can give some tasks to these particular agents, and then those agents will use large language model like ChatGPT to decide what action needs to be taken to get that particular task done. And to do those particular tasks, it might require certain tools. So there is a concept of tool. So tool again is some kind of a program which can perform a specific task. There could be a tool which will help you to search on Google. There could be a tool which can help you to connect to the database, and there could be a tool which can help you run some Python code. So tool is some kind of a program, or there could be a tool for LNA to do some kind of a calculation. So the whole thing, like, you have a tool, you have a large language model, and the agent. So agent is a program which is going to use large language model to decide what to do, and then it has a lot of tools at disposal so that it can decide which tools to use. And we will see one example so that things will be the clear. So this is how overall exactly the agents and tools and all these things. So let's look at one particular example. So we're going to use the same example what they have shown in this particular document, and rather I will be focusing on very custom example related to the, let's say, database agents, right? So do that particular thing. What we're going to require to do this example what is shown here, we going to require two tools. One is this SERP API, which is nothing but which allows you to, let's say, search on a Google for a particular thing. So it's like a Google search API. You can go here, you can log in with your Google account, and you will get some free credits. I think we get 100 or something. You could monthly search 100 searches. That is what you will get if you log in with your Google account. And you will also get one key, sorry, like this, that you can use so that you can programmatically access this particular SERP API, which is Google search API. So let's go, come back here. Let me zoom bit. Okay, so we're going to require this SERP API, and let's say the task we want to do will also require some mathematical tool. So we have math tool, we have search tool. So here is a task for a particular agent. So we want to ask agent, like, who is the Leo DiCarpio's girlfriend, and what is her current age raised to some 0.43 power. So this is the task agent has. And now agent, to fulfill this task, it also has the two tools that it can use, and it can also use a large language model like an OpenAI. So see what all things we are importing. So first of all, from LangChain agents, we want to import load tools because we're going to use certain tools. We will also want to initialize agent. Then there are some agent types we will see. Only one of the one type that what we're going to use, and then a large language model as an OPI. So let's import those things, and even let's create the LLM. I think by default, okay, so what it is saying, it requires a key, OpenAI key. I think we didn't run the above sale, so let's run this particular sale, and we're also going to require this Google search results Python library, right? So let's run that thing also. Now we have both the keys. We have OpenAI keys, we have, let's say, this SERP API key. Now it should work. So we created now large language model instance from the OpenAI. By default, I guess it uses GPT-3 by default. And then we have these tools loaded. Then we can now initialize the agent. And while initializing agent, we can give what tools it has, what language model it can use to make those decision which actions to take. And this is the agent type. So if you go and read more about agent types, so we're going to use this one, zero shot React description. What this particular thing does, it's nothing but simply read the tools description, and then decide what tools needs to be used for that particular action. So for us, we could see we have two tools. One is the Google search API tool and the other one is the mathematical tool. So it is going to look at the description of these tools, and then on the whole or the soul on that description, it is going to decide which tools to use. So that is what this agent type is here, right? So let's run and see what happens. So we are running this agent with this particular task, or let's say this is something what we want the agent should find out. So we are saying, that same thing, that who is Leo DiCaprio, then seems to be, it is coming with this particular answer, that it find out who is the girlfriend, by searching on the internet, and then it find out its age, and then eventually it raised to it to, let's say, 0.43 power, and this is what the answer we got. But there are a lot of things happening under the hood, and if you want to know, how it is making those decisions, what actions it took, and all these things, what we can do, we can put a verbose is equal to true, so that we can see what's happening, under the hood, or thought process of the agent. And this is what we could see. So you see that, it is entering into the new agent executor change. Then it start thinking, I need to find out the who is, first of all, the Leo DiCaprio's girlfriend. And then it needs to calculate her age, and so this is what it understand from the whatever the task we have given. Now based on that, it has two tools, the search tool and the mathematical tool. So it decided it will use the action search tool. How it decide? It is going to again use the large language model to, based on the task and whatever the tool description available, which one tools needs to be used. So it decided it needs to take the action which is search, and it is going to use that search tool for that. Now, to do the search action, does it needs to provide any input? So yes, it needs to provide, what exactly it needs to search. So it is going to search, Leo Carpio's girlfriend. And if you could see, it observes something. So whenever that search results came, based on that search analysis of search result, it observed something. There are some rumors, and who is that particular girlfriend, and eventually found, the girlfriend name. And then next it's saying that it needs to find the age of that particular girlfriend, right? So it needs to again search on the internet, and once it has both the age, this is what its thought process. It says, I need to calculate her age raised to this particular thing. That's why he think it needs to take action as a calculator. So there was a two actions, search, calculator. So this is where large language model playing the role. What actions to be taken, in what sequence or what order they needs to be taken. And then eventually this is the final thought, that the agent think it got the answer, and this is what finally you see, this is the answer. So this is how agent works, and they are so powerful that if while searching, if some error comes, they will try to recover that particular, error. So this is how agent works. I hope you got the idea, so that now we can look for the very specific agent that we are interested, which is actually the SQL database agent. So that's what we will see the next. So again, we're going to create the SQL agent. So if you can go again, I put a link here, and you can read more about what exactly the SQL database agent. So these are the agents. So there is the concept of SQL database chain under the hood. So in the if you see the concepts of, what are the chains in the this LangChain, the chains are nothing but, when you want to perform some actions in a particular sequence, or when you want to combine, let's say, two three models together, you can chain them together. So that's what the concept of chain here. You can read more about it. So what exactly this, SQL database agent is actually going to connect to our SQL database, and we can ask some, questions in the natural language. So let's see how it works. So first of all, we need to import, create the SQL agent. There's a concept of toolkit in the LangChain. So toolkit is nothing but the specialized agent. So if you go and read more about, what exactly the toolkits, what they have recently, announced. So toolkits are nothing but, agents designed to particular use case. So we saw a generic agent, right, which actually searches on internet for something. But now, we're going to look, sorry, not here, but now we want to look at very particular agent which is very specialized in SQL database related stuff. That's why this concept is called toolkit. And then we're going to enter the SQL database, the OpenAI. Again, we don't need to import it again, but then there is something called agent executor, so that we can execute. I think we might have okay, let's see, let's import this particular thing. Then what database I'm using? So I go to this particular, let's say this mysqltutorial.org, and there is a sample database what I took. So you can download that database and, import. There is a schema associated with that DB, which is, seems to be related to, let's say, retail kind of stuff. We have a products, we have those product order details, we have customers, their payment details, and all this things, right? So typical retail, so that we all somewhat, let's say, familiar with something like this. So I choose this thing. I imported that data into the actual DB hosted on, let's say, AWS RDS. This is where my MySQL DB is hosted, and now we're going to connect this particular DB using this LangChain SQL stuff. What we require to connect to our database, whether you connect via agent or whether you connect via, let's say, normal Python program, we're going to require a couple of things. We need to know, first of all, database username, its password, its host name. So currently it is hosted on AWS. It could be your local host, it could be whatever the server you have hosted it. And then the database name, this is the name of the database what we actually imported, right? And then you can use SQL database. This is what we imported here, right? So it has a method called SQL database from URI. So every database that you want to connect, it will have some connection string. You can search for it, and that connection string will have some kind of a combination. It will take username, password, host, and it will also have some kind of a database plus library or driver information. So currently I'm going to use actually my MySQL to connect with that particular thing. You can read more about it. It is using under the hood SQL Alchemy, so you can also look at. So basically you just need to use proper whatever the database that you are dealing with. If you're not sure which one, you can comment in the video. You can comment on this video, and I will help you to get the correct connection string for whatever the database that you are working. But for now, let's say we are dealing with the MySQL, and we are using this PyMySQL driver or the library. So if you give this all this information, you should be able to get the database instance, or let's say connected to that particular database. Now, next what? We got the DB. Now we need the language models. On top, we have used, I guess, GPT-3 default. But for now, let's say we can use the chat model, which is, let's say, GPT 3.5 or GPT-4. So we can import those chat models. Let's say chat OpenAI, and I'm going to put a specific model name here. You could pass GPT-4 or GPT 3.5. So let's deal with, let's say, GPT 3.5. Now, once we have the DB, once we have the large language model, we also require this toolkit, and then eventually we can create now SQL agent, which will take our large language model. Instead of giving this particular LLM, I think I need to give this one, right? Yeah, the LLM, and this is the toolkit. Again, we will put verbose is equal to true so that you can see what's happening under the hood. Now let's get that particular agent. So we got the agent with all these details. Now we can execute or run that particular agent, giving the similar kind of task, but those tasks are now not generic. They are like a database related the task what we want to perform. So the first task we will perform, describing a particular table. So we will say, hey, describe the order related table. So we are not giving any particular table name, but we are saying, we are interested more of, order related tables and how those tables are related. So let's see whether it is able to figure it out which are the tables are related to the order tables. So again, it starts. So first action it took, actually, first of all, it want to list all tables. That's the first action it did. So here is the list of all those tables. Okay, it's running. So let it finish, and then we will go through it, peacefully. It's still running. Okay, maybe let's just go through it. So first of all, it want to list those tables. Now you see there is no input required for such a thing. Oh, come on, where it is? Yeah. So here we don't require anything input because we are just listing all the tables what we require. So input is empty. So what observation it got? It got all the list of tables, and then it started thinking, that I should query the order details table to see if anything order related it can find there. And so no, it decided to get the schema for orders and the order details table, and eventually it got order and order details table, and maybe it started again thinking the foreign key constraint and everything here you could see. And then eventually, yeah, it did a lot of things under the hood, to see what is the final answer it is giving. It is saying the order table and the order details table are related by order number column, which serve as a foreign key. Some kind of how they are related and how do you want to join and all these things. So this was just describing tables. But what if we made some mistake while describing the table name? Let's see what happens. They are saying describe the purchase details table, but we know there is no purchase details tables as such. and it got error actually. So first of all, it lists all the tables, and then even though it started querying the purchase details table to get its schema. You could see it is asking for the schema, and then it got some error saying that purchase details table not found. And then maybe it may say, I made a typo, I will try it again. And it kind of make purchase details to order details, and then it somewhat figure it out, this is the nearest, or meaningfully nearest table that it should look for. And then eventually it says this information, that the purchase details table, which is actually called a order details, has this number of columns, all this table. So this is how good this, right? So let's say you run some query, and after running the query, let's say it made some mistake, it come up with the SQL query, but then sometimes it might come up with some wrong column name or something like that, then it can correct itself. This is the power of agents. So agent can correct themselves because they are able to observe. When you run an SQL query, they can have an observation, and based on you do the same thing, right? When you use ChatGPT, what we do, we run some query, we go back and paste that error in the ChatGPT UI, and based on that, again, ChatGPT suggests us to do something, right? Now you can think of, you have an agent who can do that themselves. Like, they can simply observe the error, and then again have some kind of a thought. It's like a thinking like a human, right? Kind of an intelligent being. So you see, we got this information. Now let's try to run some meaningful queries. Now we deal with the describing and all these things. Let's see. We will ask, find the top 5 products with the highest total sales and revenue, and let's see how it start thinking if it wants to find this particular thing. Let's see what it thinks. So again, the first action it wants to do is actually simply list the tables. And now, once it has tables, it is still thinking what to do, you see. Now, okay, what's its thought process? It is saying that I should query the products and the order details table to get the total sales revenue for each product. So it decided to do a action called query checker, and then it wrote some query that select product, start product name. And then, yeah, if you could see our order detail tables, we have quantity order and the price for each. If you go back and see order details, here we have the quantity order and the price each, so it needs to multiply so that the what is the total order sum for that particular order. So that's what it is doing actually. For this is single order, then this is for all the orders, from the products, then it is joining the order tables, and then it might be group by the product name or maybe the product code. And then finally order total revenue descending and get the top 5 highest. This is how it come up with the query. And then the query looks correct, so it even gives some thought to it whether it is correct or not. And eventually run the query, it got some answer, right, which will be typical whatever the Python result you will get, which is nothing but the list of tuples what it got. And eventually it framed that all information in a plain text so that we understand it better. It says that the top 5 products with the highest total sales revenue are this particular one. This is the second project. So this is how good it is. It can take whatever the it's not giving what these programs are communicating with each other, rather whatever the response it got from the other program, it's kind of giving in a more meaningful way, so that it's more like a human understandable manner. Let's run the one more query. So this is how you can use this SQL thing, right? You see, we didn't require any training data. You just need to connect your database, and it's just going to work most of the time. It's simply going to first of all get the, I hope that your table name should be something meaningfully describable, because that helps you to understand which tables to look for the more detail. So if your table names are self-explanatory, that is going to help your agent, because that's what it is helping to narrow down to which schema to look for. And then it is going to look for those schema. Based on that understanding, it's going to decide whether to query once or the query twice. And it might want to do a query twice. Again here, what did we search? A list top 3 countries with the highest number of orders, right? And it starts something thinking. It ran that query, it looks good, it got some result, and eventually it says that it is USA, France, and Spain. You might want to try some different queries which are complex, which might require multiple steps to get that particular thing. But the whole idea of this video to show you, how do we connect, how those agents thinks actually, what kind of actions they took, and maybe based on your trial and error, see, maybe you can read more about how those agents work. Even I am interested to know what's happening under the hood, and maybe how do we create our own agent, right? Or the custom agent that can be interact with our DB. So I hope you found this video useful. I will be deleting all those keys, whatever I expose here, like both these keys will be deleted by the time this video gets live. And if you have any doubts or anything related to this video, let me know in the comments. And if you want or any suggestions for the next video, that also you can tell me. And if you face any issues, while dealing with this particular video or anything related to the LangChain or NLP, you can ask those questions on the Discord. There are many people who can answer your queries, and whenever I get time, I personally answer them. Thank you very much.